Hello there.
Well, welcome to Your In Depth, where we walk through and break down our favorite fictional universes. As usual, I'm Jacob. I'm here joined by Evan, who decided to grab his cat literally right as I was about to say the intro. Further delaying it. I do enjoy seeing her, though, so there's that. Today, we're going to be covering chapter 1 of the Book of Boba Fett. This aired on Wednesday, and so now we're covering it. We're talking about it. Let's get into this. Do you have any Star Wars news now that Book of Boba Fett's actually out?
No, not that I know of.
Yeah, I don't either. But anyway, I guess if you're ready to just dive right in, why don't we?
Okay.
Yeah. You're not giving very solid responses, and I can't read what you're doing. I don't know if you even hear me. I'll be honest.
That's anyway. Okay. I don't even know if I hear you, so it's fine. It's fine. It works out.
You can't distinguish it between me and you can't distinguish me between what's outside of your head and the many voices that are in it.
No, there's just too many.
All right. We open up our episode, and it's on Tatooine. We see Jabba's palace. We're kind of getting this little virtual tour of it, basically. It's empty. We then kind of open up to a more well-lit scene in a room. We do see Boba in a Bacta tank.
Yeah.
Right? Is that the right phrase for that? It's a tank. Yeah. It's Bacta. Yeah, but
yeah, it's a Bacta tank.
I don't know. But anyway, we get scenes of Kamino. And then, so a lot of flashbacks going on here. We get scenes of Kamino, and then we get a scene of him as a child holding his father's helmet right after Mace Windu, Henry VIII did him.
So also with that scene of Kamino, in case you didn't recognize it, Jacob, which I'm sure you did, but I guess really for anyone that did not, it's that scene in Attack of the Clones right before Obi-Wan goes running out there and has his fight with Jango. Yeah.
You made me lose my spot. Just kidding, you didn't. Here it is. We switched to a dark scene then of Boba inside of the Sarlacc. He shines his light around and sees a dead stormtrooper. He then pulls free he goes over to it and he pulls free the stormtrooper's oxygen supply or something like that and inserts it into his own helmet and gets some air. He then punches through the Sarlacc's gut wall or something and then ignites his flamethrower, just torching through it. We then cut to above the surface and we see his hand punch through the sand and he digs himself out and then lies down. We cut ahead to nighttime and we see a moving palace roll up. Jawas get out, take his armor. That's how they got it. And then he wakes up a little bit, grabs one of them in the leg, and then they knock him out. They took his armor. That's how we saw it in Mandalorian. How Cobb Vanth got Boba Fett's armor because he bought it from the Jawas, whatever, all this stuff. So
and before we go any further, though, I do want to preface that, and you and I briefly talked about yesterday. But this episode is definitely like a setup for the rest of at least the rest of the show, the rest of the season. Just kind of getting the backstory established, and kind of giving us the information of how Boba got to where he is, so we can go from there. It's definitely just like a setup episode.
Yeah, for sure. Also, I want to take a quick break to show you something because I forgot about it. Check out what my aunt got me for Christmas. It's a little box, but check this out.
Am I supposed to be hearing something?
Do you not hear it?
No.
It plays the Star Wars theme.
Oh.
If you heard it in the mic, well, cool. It might have been too high a frequency, to be honest.
If they heard it in the mic, well, screw them, because I didn't get to hear it.
Well, up yours.
I hope you die.
Me too. Well, I'm just going to jot down the time there. I feel bad now.
I don't know why.
Well, anyway, so yeah, he gets knocked out. He lays back down. We cut ahead to nighttime. Nope, that's not the right area.
Nope, we cut ahead to some Tusken Raiders walking through the desert, and they find Boba still laying there unconscious, and they feed him some weird ooze from this slug-looking thing.
Yeah, it kind of looked
nasty.
like a bug that they just squeezed and it pours into his mouth, but he wakes up.
Yeah, it's like those waking salts where they use for sports when like someone gets knocked out.
Yeah,
something similar to that. But
I mean, something.
Yeah, the Tusken Raiders take him as a prisoner, tied a rope to his hands, and then tied it to one of their banthas as they're pulling him back to camp.
Right, and he ends up losing some energy while he's walking, so he just collapses and is dragged along. They end up coming to a stop. They all look at him as he's lying on his back, and then we get our Book of Boba Fett title card. Mm-hmm. Then,
and this chapter is called...
Oh, yeah.
It gives us the title of the chapter, and it is called Stranger in a Strange Land.
Yep. We do see Boba tied up to a post right after this. He looks his skin looks very scarred. Just kind of he doesn't, my guess personally, and maybe you have a different idea, is that, I mean, he was in the Sarlacc's stomach. Do you think that's kind of acidic burns potentially? I mean, it was so recent, it probably wasn't necessarily that, but.
So when you look at his head, right, because it looks like because he does have scars there, and those could easily just be scars from being a bounty hunter.
I mean, that's fair, but there's quite a bit of them.
Yeah, but it's kind of hard to tell too, because it looks like his face and like the upper part of his chest that we can see, like where his shirt is torn. It looks like he's just like caked with like sand and something else.
Oh,
it's very, because he looks very like white, like very. I don't want to say pale because it's not pale. It's like something's caked all over his head.
Thinking about it, I don't think it is scarring. It probably is that freaking disgusting Sarlacc stuff on him and then caked with sand because it's not like he washed it off.
Yeah, but
that would probably make sense, but it almost looks like scarring.
I don't know how much of the Sarlacc stuff it would be, because he had his full suit on. It's supposed to be airtight and all that kind of stuff.
That's true.
But I also kind of wanted to mention too, because there is a book
Boba Fett?
Yeah, a book of Boba Fett. Yeah, totally. But it's a book that follows him after the events of the beginning of Return of the Jedi, where he falls in the Sarlacc pit. And I don't think the book is canon anymore. But it actually has a really cool dialogue between Boba Fett and the Sarlacc.
This sounds familiar.
Yeah. And so in that book, it basically describes the Sarlacc, for anybody that's played Halo. It describes the Sarlacc kind of similar to a grave mind from Halo, which is basically like the mind, the control mechanism of these like parasites in the Halo franchise. But in terms of Star Wars, it kind of like the Sarlacc communicates to Boba like telepathically, and it kind of talks to him about like how it can't die. It lives for like thousands upon thousands of years, and it's like this all-knowing creature and like all this kind of stuff. And it has this dialogue with him over the course of like days, if not weeks. And in that book, the way that Boba escapes, because we just saw it here, per canon now, he uses the flamethrower to like basically burn a hole through its side to crawl out. But in the book, he uses his rocket on his jetpack and blows a hole through the side of the Sarlacc and crawls out that way. Like straight up goes rocket.
Earlier today, I saw a TikTok where it was I think it was Parks and Recreation, but it did a side-by-side because in it must have been that show, I'm pretty sure, but either way, it was some scene where Patton Oswalt, I don't know if you know who that is, but he was sitting at like a podium, and he's like describing how Boba Fett survived, and it was like part of some show. And he must have been talking about that, but he's like describing, and this was 8 years before this. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, somebody commented that he like helped write this episode. I don't know. But anyway, he was like describing it perfectly. Like he's like, up comes a hand out of the sand and grips, and he's like, and pulls himself out, and there he is, Boba Fett or whatever, you know. But it was like they did a side by side, and as he's narrating it, that's exactly what's happening in this episode and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was, but
and because I don't remember what it was, but at some point I talked about the Sarlacc pits before. And I don't remember if that was like when we first started this way back when those first four episodes was just kind of a general talking of, and we kind of cut those out.
So. The times that I remember was when we were talking about Cobb Vanth, because in there somewhere you talked about Boba being surviving. Well, actually, it was after we saw him, I think, at the end of Mando. But then also when we were talking about the Crate Dragon too, it was like something like he lives in an abandoned Sarlacc pit, and they're like, there's no such thing as an abandoned Sarlacc pit. And then it's like, well, there is if you eat the Sarlacc. I think that you maybe mentioned some then, but yeah.
Yeah. But cause I personally think the whole Sarlacc pit thing is like, is genius. That's such a cool way to incorporate some large beast or some large creature into a world. Because, like, typically when you're watching shows or movies or whatever, and you see this large creature, this terrifying thing, it's some large beast like a Godzilla or, like, something like that. Just as, like, this large thing. Or the Cloverfield monster for the people that have seen those movies. Like these large, monstrous titans of beasts and stuff. But, like, this, with the Sarlacc pit, or the Sarlacc specifically, like, this thing is a huge... basically a titan of a beast that literally like eats people whole. And I don't remember what book it is in. It might be in the book that originally described how Boba escapes and survives. But it describes how the Sarlacc eats and digests its food. And it talks about, and I do remember mentioning this, a little bit of this, but when someone or something falls into the Sarlacc and it eats them, it doesn't kill them when they get eaten. They sit in its stomach like Boba was, and it has little. The way it described it, and we really didn't get to see it in this opening here, but it has little, almost like little fangs inside of its stomach that like pierce someone or something and paralyzes them.
Interesting.
But they still feel everything. It just makes it so they can't move, but they still feel everything that's happening. And so they feel themselves being literally like digested and like melted away by its stomach acid.
That's horrifying.
And it talks about how the process that it takes, it's like, I think it was something along the lines of like, it takes roughly 1,000 years for the Sarlacc to fully digest something. And so it's like if you get eaten by a Sarlacc and you're still alive when you go in its mouth, you are going to be sitting there until you either starve to death or die of thirst, whichever one comes first. Like if you just happen to have some way to be able to drink, like let's say you're in like a stormtrooper outfit and you have like a little tube that you can put into like a canteen or something like that, and you can drink whatever water you have left. You were going to sit there alive, slowly decaying and slowly being consumed by it until you die of thirst or starvation. Or in, I guess, Boba's case, and if you can find a way to burn your way out of its stomach.
That is terrifying.
Yeah.
But that also kind of explains why Boba was still alive, because if they were there to poke him to paralyze him, well, he's got
his Beskar armor, yeah, and that's why when we see the stormtrooper, right, there in their stormtrooper's armor, as we've seen, is not the most sturdy of things. It wouldn't be hard for the Sarlacc to get the stormtrooper, and because and I've talked about before, with clone armor and stormtrooper armor, it's not meant to stop you from taking a blast. It's supposed to disseminate or distribute the energy effect of whatever you're getting hit with, distribute it across the body to minimize damage rather than just stop the damage entirely, whereas the Beskar just stops it. So
it's possible, though, if that is that canon or legend now, like that description?
I'll have to double check. But I think, especially with this show coming out, I think it's going to become legend, if it has not already.
Well, that description still could hold, but where it's found maybe is legend. Regardless, it's possible then that stormtrooper he took that from was still alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially if it's still feeding air to him.
Yeah, it was. It still had air.
Yeah.
But that's not...
So, that stormtrooper had to have been eaten very recently, because it's not like stormtroopers walk around with these big, air tanks on their backs or anything like that,
Yeah.
So, it's very possible that stormtrooper was still alive in there, paralyzed, and Boba was just like, mine. It made him suffocate to death within the Sarlacc pit.
Well, I just viewed this scene a little bit differently, but
it definitely adds a horror aspect to the Sarlacc.
It does, yeah.
It adds a huge horror aspect to the Sarlacc.
Frick, dude.
Yeah, and whereas I kind of compared it to a grave mine from Halo, right? Mm-hmm. In Halo, the grave mine leads the flood, which, for anybody that's played Halo, they know what that is. I'm not going to get into that because that can be a very long tangent in itself. But the flood, they infect a host and they turn it into their own thing, with them being parasites, and that's their horror aspect, right? They literally just take life and transform it into their own soldiers. They take the soldiers that are fighting them, and you're like, you're mine, go fight your friends now. You're mine, go fight your friends now. The Sarlacc, the only similarities is they can speak telepathically to beings if they choose to. That's the only similarity there, to clarify for anybody that was like, oh, what else is similar between them? That's the only similarity. The Sarlacc just eats you and you sit in its stomach and rot while you're still alive.
Yeah, the more angles we take and the more things I realize throughout Star Wars, there's some horror elements like that. And then you got the whole freaking space teddy bears on Endor, and just coming at you in night. And
so whenever we finally get to the original trilogy and cover episode 5 and episode 6 and whatnot, I'm sure you've heard of it, Jacob, but it's a book called Death Trooper.
I don't recall. No, I don't recall.
Okay, I'll go more into it at that time, but since we're kind of on a little bit of a horror aspect with Star Wars, especially with the Sarlacc and whatnot, there's a book called Death Trooper that takes place on an Imperial Star Destroyer between episodes 5 and 6.
Okay.
And the Empire found this sort of parasitic life form out in space, and they're trying to weaponize it, and they have an outbreak on that Star Destroyer. But the book follows this crew on a smaller ship who their little ship has been damaged, and they see the Imperial Star Destroyer sitting there in space, and they try and contact, get no reply, contact again, no reply. I say, all right, we're going to come aboard because otherwise we are going to die out here. And they get there, and it is without going too much further, it is a zombie infection on the Star Destroyer that turns insanely horror with the book.
I kind of want to read that now. I'm not even a fan of horror, but Star Wars, so.
Yeah. It is straight up a Star Wars zombies. Let me pull up. I'll show you in the camera, Jacob. But for anybody that wants to see the cover of it, look up Death Trooper. And it's a novel by Joe Schreiber.
No.
Something like that. See if I can find a picture for you real quick, Jacob.
Okay.
Look on this real quick. Come on. Pull up the image. This is the cover of that book.
I don't like that. So let's move on.
And for those listening, it is a stormtrooper helmet. Not even helmet, a stormtrooper's head, because you can see a little bit of like the neck below it, with a chain with a hook at the end through one of the eye sockets and just like covered in blood. It is what the cover shows. And like I said, it's a horror, almost like a zombie horror Star Wars event. And if I'm not mistaken, it's still canon. So, but anyways, back to the Book of Boba Fett, because that went on a tangent.
Let's get back into this. Yeah. That was a good 10 minutes. So, let's see. Yeah. So he's tied to a post, right? They just dragged him into their camp. Some young Tusken Raiders come in and start beating him with like sticks, as the village chief, which I take it to be, drinks out of a gourd and just kind of watches. One of the young ones kicks him in the face and knocks him out. Then cut ahead a little bit to nighttime. He is sitting near a bonfire next to, I wrote the type of like what the species is, but it's Greedo or Bala Rapal type creature as far as this point in my notes. And then one of those like types of dog looking things that Mando tamed as they were trying to fight the Krayt Dragon. If you remember those things, they were like a wild dog type. Well, no, they were the Tusken Raiders dogs.
Yeah, the Tusken used them as basically like hunting dogs. We do see like two of them in Attack of the Clones when Anakin goes on his little slaughter spree on Tatooine as well.
Wait a minute, when?
When Anakin goes to Tatooine because he's having the visions about his mother dying, and he goes and slaughters that village of Tusken Raiders.
Not only the men, the women, and the children. Yep.
Yeah, you see it briefly. He comes out of that tent after his mother dies, and he kills the two Tusken Raiders. And you can see a couple of these weird dog-looking creatures in that camp before it cuts away.
Okay. Yeah, I don't recall that, but now
just another point where we do see some of these creatures.
Okay. But well, anyway, there is one of these dogs next to the bonfire, and it watches him as he starts trying to free himself. It bares its teeth and approaches him, and he continues to try to free himself before it jumps on him. He ends up choking it out and then knocks it out and uses its teeth to cut his rope. He then asks the Rodian, which is what it's called, if he wants Boba to cut his bonds, but the slimy piece of trash alerts the Tusken Raiders instead.
Yeah. And I will say, though, too, that I do like that we get to see more of the Tusken Raiders here, because we got to see them a little bit in Mandalorian, and we got to see that they're not just this savage, brutal creatures. There's intelligence there.
Yeah,
they're a race of people. They have their own little nomadic villages and whatnot, and like they're not just these stupid beasts.
Right. I remember in episode 1 where they were like doing their donkey noises, shooting at the pod racers, as well as seeing them. Well, really just in the movies. I remember getting I'm like, screw these things, mass genocide, all of them. It maybe a little extreme there. I don't know if I thought that exact thing, but I did not like them. And now, especially with Mandalorian and this, it's kind of humanizing them, and you do see that they're more of a, well, as you said, like a race of people, a culture, a nomadic kind of.
like nomadic tribes across Tatooine.
And you see their kind of way of life. You see that they actually are not just this mindless beast that shoots at things, you know?
Yeah, because there is a Tusken Raider that actually becomes a Jedi during the Clone Wars. Or before the Clone Wars, and actually fights in the Clone Wars. And as, like Order 66 happens and whatnot, he survives and goes back to his people and becomes like a Tusken Raider chief who is also a Jedi. That's a terrifying combination.
Yep. Well, anyway. I'm tired of this spooky crap. These themes of kind of eerie and horror so far.
Yeah, we don't get to see a whole lot of it in Star Wars.
We don't. But anyway, he asks, it alerts Tusken Raider. Boba takes off running after he disarms one of the young Tuskens, and he takes off into the night. The dog thing follows him, as does the other Tuskens. Eventually, one of them calls back the dog, and another pulls out, a bantha stick, right?
Yeah.
And approaches Boba and promptly kicks his...
Well, and so this as well really leads to getting some insight into Boba, because when we see him in Mandalorian, when he's helping Mando try and get the child back, right, he's helping protect the child against the stormtroopers when they come and try and take him, and then those death troopers and whatnot. Boba's using a bantha stick.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so this has some implications, like. And because so far we haven't seen it, but maybe Boba gets some training from the Tuskens on how to fight with the bantha stick and more hand-to-hand fighting. And he kind of incorporates a little bit of their combat style and that type of stuff when we see him in Mando.
Yeah, can we take a quick pause? My computer's being... my second monitor's being dumb. I can't see you right now. Okay, so... Going back to where we were.
Yeah, with the Tusken Raiders chasing after Boba.
Right.
And with the bantha stick, this definitely, especially with what we saw in Mando, and now with this first episode, I think it's a very solid possibility that Mando, maybe in episode 2 or episode 3, we see Boba. Right? Sorry, yeah. Whatever his name is, that maybe we see him get some training from the Tuskens.
I would say
with the bantha
for
stick.
Sure. Yeah, especially with seeing how he used it, I think that's a strong possibility.
Yeah, how he used it in Mando. Yeah,
right.
Because when we watch this, especially in this scene, because like you said, they call their little dog creature thing back, and he ends up fighting. I'm guessing this is like the chieftain's wife, because it definitely, to me at least, like even though we really can't tell because of the mask that they wear, it has like a feminine figure to it. I don't know if that's just me, but it looks like there's a feminine figure to it, like that might be either the chieftain's wife or like one of their great warriors or something like that. And she just like whoops his butt, like he doesn't know what he's doing with this little stick impromptu bantha thing that the children use.
Yeah. But once again, he's on his back. We get a glimpse back to present day where Fennec wakes him up. Holy crap, we're only here in the episode. Wakes him up out of his healing session. He says that the dreams are back. Fennec says it's time to go as they are here to pay respects.
Yeah.
Boba suits up with the help of some droids into his armor and proceeds. Go ahead.
So this is making me wonder because with Darth Vader, and I know we're not there yet in terms of the podcast, but I think this is a good place to make a comparison because with Darth Vader, with his extensive scarring and whatnot that he has, right? Darth Vader constantly has to be put into Bacta. Thank you. Holy crap.
Well, okay. I was trying to figure out what the right word was because I kept bouncing between the other things.
Yeah, but Darth Vader constantly has to be put in the back to tank as well because of his extensive scarring and whatnot that he has. And so I'm wondering if holy crap, there's too many of them. I'm wondering if Boba, after the events in the Sarlacc pit, because even with him having his Beskar on and that type of stuff, there's still gaps in his armor, you know? So I'm wondering if he's got maybe some permanent damage done to his body because of the acids and whatnot within its stomach, that he's constantly having to go into back to tanks just to maybe slowly start to heal that.
I would say potentially, but we also see him getting his crap rocked a good amount in flashbacks.
That's definitely true as well, yeah.
There could be other things.
And because I don't know where this in timeline-wise, where this first episode takes place. Because we were told that the majority of the show is going to take place around the same time as The Mandalorian.
Yeah, like shortly after.
But
season 2 ended.
But with these flashbacks, because if this right here, where they're paying tribute, which we're about to see, where Fennec has told them they're here to pay tribute. If this is taking place shortly after the events of Mando season 2 that we saw with Boba in them, then these flashbacks that we're seeing all the way back to the Tusken Raiders and with the Sarlacc pit are a good 5 years, if I'm not mistaken. Because doesn't Mandalorian take place 5 years after the events of Episode 6?
It's somewhere in there.
At least initially, like the first episode of Mando does. So this could be like a good 6 years after the events of Episode 6. So we're potentially getting flashbacks 6 years back for Boba here. Is what we're seeing.
It's for sure. The flashbacks are for sure before The Mandalorian.
Yeah. Because it's like right after the events of Episode 6.
Right.
Or I
don't know.
So that's the thing too, because the flashbacks, depending on where they take place, because the flashbacks could be taking place during Episode 6. Because the whole thing with Mando going into the Sarlacc is right there in the beginning of Episode 6.
Boba.
Gosh dang it. There's too many of them.
I know. Anyway.
But yeah, the events of Boba going into the Sarlacc pit happen right there at the beginning of Episode 6. So these flashbacks where he's with the Tusken Raiders, where he just got the crap beat out of him. What did I say? Did I say Mando again?
No, you didn't. But earlier you were saying it was Episode 5, and now you said it was in the Episode 6, and now you just.
When did I say Episode 5? I said it when I was talking about the Death Trooper thing. Was between Episodes 5 and 6.
No, just now when you were talking about.
Oh my goodness! I'm just gonna go shoot myself.
I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter. You're saying
the events of Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Boba goes into the Sarlacc pit at the very beginning of Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. So.
Oh, okay.
These flashbacks that we have just seen with Boba Fett, bounty hunter. Now I gotta think about what I'm saying. Those events, I would say, are happening the same time as following Luke and Leia and Han in Episode 6. Although I don't know for sure. I'll have to double check and look it up some and look into that. But I would say they're happening concurrently, going on at the same time. So we're getting to see events of or parts of Episode 6, or events happening during Episode 6 that we've never seen before, which I think is cool. It's like other stuff is actually happening in the Star Wars universe while Luke is saving the universe.
Yeah. So, Boba suits up, and then he puts on his helmet and goes in, sits on the throne of Jabba's room, like, that room.
I want to know how long it took for them to clean that throne.
Ugh,
because I just have to imagine like Jabba left some nasty sludge left over whenever he would leave his throne. And so I really wonder how long it took them to clean that thing off before Boba was like, I'll sit here.
Well, different creatures come in and pay him respects in the form of giving him, well, money. One of them grunts and communicates, kind of like that's how he's talking. And Boba turns to Fennec and he's like, "Do you have any idea what he just said?" And or something like that. They don't understand him. And something about a friendship.
Yeah, he's like, "Do you get any of that?" And she goes, "Something about friendship."
In comes a Trandoshan that Boba apparently used to work for. Its name is Doc Strassi.
Yes, so we have not gotten there in the Clone Wars yet, but we see more of this race in the Clone Wars. For anybody that's kind of familiar with some different bounty hunters in Star Wars, Bosk is a bounty hunter, and we actually see him briefly, I believe, in the original trilogy as one of the kind of like a background bounty hunter for Darth Vader. I believe. I could be wrong, but I believe we see him there. It's the same race. For anybody that's familiar with Bosk, or anybody that's played Battlefront 2, the new Battlefront 2 game. I say new, but the newest Battlefront game, Bosk is one of the heroes you can play as if you're playing as like one of the bad factions. But it's that same race of creature.
Well, anyway, he comes in, offers, his respects, whatever, then leaves.
So I just made a connection here. I'm sorry.
Oh, what?
So the Trandoshans, right? They hunt Wookiees for sport.
Oh, my God, dude. Last night when my wife and I were watching this, he comes in and she goes, "Oh, there's Chewbacca." I just thought it was a rug. That's actually a freaking, that's actually a thing.
If I'm not mistaken.
That's actually a Wookiee.
If I'm not mistaken, that is the skin of a Wookiee, because Trandoshans hunt Wookiees for sport. During the Clone Wars and into the time of the Empire, Trandoshans would go and kidnap Wookiees from Kashyyyk, take them back to their home world, and release them into the wild and then hunt them. Because they found honor and they thought it was fun. To hunt Wookiees. Who we have been informed by Han Solo that they will rip arms out of their sockets if they lose a simple game of basically chess. And these things hunt them for sport. And this thing has just offered Boba what you, like you just said, initially thought was a rug, but I am now very certain, because I've just made this connection, I am very certain that is like a Wookiee rug.
Oh, no, it for sure looks like a hide. So,
like, how people have like those bear hides on the ground? I'm just imagining Trandoshans use Wookiee hides the same way. They just sprawl them out on the floor as decoration.
Honestly, they probably do.
And they have just offered Boba a Wookiee hide in tribute.
Probably. Well, anyway, so he leaves. That's I was wondering that, and I did not have that background to it. Or at least I didn't draw the connection, so fun.
Yeah.
In comes a goober of a Twi'lek. He is there on behalf of the mayor. He is apparently there asking for tribute to be paid from Boba to the mayor. And Boba says he's the Crimelord here. He's like, I'm the Crimelord here. Well, he's supposed to be paying me,
Yeah.
And Fennec offers to kill the Twi'lek, but Boba says no. The Twi'lek walks out and says, you should be expecting another meeting here soon. Like, the mayor still wants to talk to you as he leaves.
And so I feel like it's important to point out as well, because we didn't mention it, because they're on Tatooine, and we always attribute Mos Eisley with Tatooine, right? And so people might have initially thought this is Mos Eisley, where they are in Mos Espa.
Yeah.
For clarification, this is the mayor of Mos Espa that's come in and basically demanded tribute from Boba.
Now, is this like the capital city?
So
it looks rather large, but I didn't know.
I believe so. Let me double check that just to make sure.
Okay. Well, yeah, get back to me on that. But in come two Gamorreans that used to work for Bib Fortuna. If we remember the big snake, disgusting looking dude that had like a wrap around his neck a couple of times.
How do you spell Tatooine?
T-A-T-T, wait. I think Tatooine. I'm not 100% sure on that. But that'll at least get you a Google result.
So this is... so the capital of Tatooine is Bestine.
Oh.
Is the capital of Tatooine. So Mos Espa would be another, I'm assuming like Mos Eisley, just another large town, large city on Tatooine.
Okay.
So.
But the Gamorreans come in. They used to work for Bib Fortuna. They were captured alive as a tribute to Boba. The part of their tribute is to be tortured to make a point, but Boba says that he does not torture. 8D8, which is a little droid that's there. Almost looks like the Legends rendition of Plagueis, but, just long, tall head kind of thing.
Yeah. So do you know who Bib Fortuna is?
I know what he looks like, but I don't recall the significance of him.
So when we saw Jabba in episode 6, Bib Fortuna is that Twi'lek advisor to Jabba.
Right. Yeah, I know who he is, but I didn't know exactly what he did.
So after Jabba died in Return of the Jedi, Bib Fortuna took over his crime syndicate and died shortly after, leaving this hole for Boba to take over. I'm not sure, honestly. I'm not sure how he died. But he died some way or another. Leaving this hole within the crime syndicate for Boba to take over.
Okay. But anyway, apparently on Tatooine, you must project strength if you are to be discipled as the... My God, hold on. Wow. I started reading, and my speech was behind what I was reading, and then my speech started being affected by whatever. On Tatooine, apparently, you must project strength if you are to be accepted as the daimyo, which is kind of like, I assume, like the Crimelord.
Yeah, the title for the Crimelord.
Okay. Boba asks the Gamorreans if they'd be loyal to him as they were to their bosses if he were to spare them, and they respond by kneeling and pledging kind of their allegiance to him.
And I think it's funny, though, because every time we've seen these Gamorreans... Right, they're always getting their butts kicked because we always see them going up against like the main character of whatever we see them in, right? So always get their butts kicked.
Mandalorian.
So yeah, and so like people.
And actually, aren't these the same too?
I don't think so.
Actually,
could be wrong,
those ones
but I don't
might
think
have died.
Yeah.
Never mind.
But clearly, Gamorreans are very skillful fighters. Otherwise, why would a crime lord like Jabba use them as bodyguards?
Yeah, exactly.
And why would other people use them as bodyguards? But we never really get to see that side of them because they're always going up against the main character of whatever movie or show that we're watching. They get their butts kicked.
Yeah.
But I do think it's important to point out that like they've got significant skill. Otherwise, why would they be used?
Yeah. We then get a big overview of Mos Espa. And then we see Boba, Fennec, and the two Gamorreans walk through the streets. Fennec says that Boba should be carried around, as that's what the people here see as a sign of power. But Boba doesn't wish to be carried around like some noble. We then enter into a cantina and see freaking Eeyore playing an instrument over there, and some music being played. Which reminds me, by the way. This episode is sponsored by Max Rebo's Orto Orchestra. If you have a party in need of musical accompaniment, then call this little rejected Grogu pitch today. Call the eyesore Eeyore. Call the hell of a dump Heffalump. Call the blue-tinted, cholesterol-addicted, fattest tub of bantha flubber in existence today.
Solid.
I think now's a good time for our regular sponsor, too.
So, and again, just because of where I've paused the episode for our sponsor that everybody just heard, I've noticed something here, and again, this is a small detail that I personally really enjoy seeing. If you look closely, it shows some people playing cards.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're actually playing is called Bazaar. And it is a card game within the Star Wars universe that has been fully worked out, and there's actually cards to it, and you can actually play it, and there's an actual rules to it, and all that kind of stuff. And it's an actually fully made card game that was made for Star Wars, and it's called Bazaar. And so in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, which is no longer a canon game, but it's a role playing game. Like you make your character and go through the story and whatnot. But you can actually collect cards in that game. You can play Bazaar in that game, and I think it's cool that they have some extras, when they're filming this playing Bazaar here in the background of this casino, more or less.
That's funny. Dude, if you and I ever get to the point where we are like, not necessarily even have a studio, but are doing this to where it's like we're having a video podcast, we're doing all this, we should do like extra events where we like, we like literally have like a live stream where we just freaking play that or something,
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
But yeah, and it's definitely, it's a gambling game. It's kind of like a poker style game, but I do think that's really cool that they kind of incorporated that into the background of this scene here.
Yeah. Two Twi'leks walk up to Fett and Fennec and ask if they wish their helmets to be serviced and cleaned as they wait to talk to the owner of this establishment.
I'm
Fennec
so glad
starts off. Go ahead.
That we get to see more of Twi'leks, because the last time we saw Twi'leks was Mandalorian. And those two Twi'leks that we saw looked freaking disgusting.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Yeah, they looked like these disgusting, like, druggies Twi'leks, and they were just gross. And so I'm glad we get to see some more Twi'leks and see that they're all not disgusting little demons.
Yeah, because the two that we saw were just, ugh.
Yeah.
But anyway, Fennec starts to say no thank you, but Boba accepts. And then in walks a fancy Twi'lek, welcoming them to the sanctuary. Boba wishes to talk business, so they do. He says that he has replaced Bib Fortuna. This Twi'lek says, "Oh, sorry, I didn't see your litter." He says he wasn't carried in on one. He walks on his own 2 feet. He says he is just there to introduce himself. In come the other Twi'leks and return the helmets, and in Boba's is just a bunch of coins. They leave after introducing themselves and whatnot. And Fennec talks of Jabba, and Boba says that Jabba ruled with fear, but he intends on ruling with respect. Fennec says, though, that in difficult times, fear works better. Then in come some friggin' ninjas and fight Boba and Fennec, using some electrical weapons of some kind with some holographic shield things, too.
They
the Gamorreans come in.
They look kind of similar to those shields that the Gungans use in Episode 1, when there's that big battle between the Gungans and the droids and the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, they do.
It's kind of like maybe like an updated version of those.
Maybe, yeah. But Gamorreans come in and kind of fight for a while. The fight eventually ends with some ninjas fleeing. Boba blows up one of them with his wrist rocket, which reminded me of the old Battlefront 2, watch those wrist rockets, line, which I love. But
and I do like this scene too, this fight scene, because like I was saying earlier, like the Gamorreans have to have some sort of skill, and we actually get to see their skill in fighting.
Yeah, we do
here.
see a bit of it.
Yeah, and the Gamorreans are holding their own. They actually take out some of these guys, and so we actually get to see that. Number one, they've got some skill in fighting, and number two, they're showing their loyalty to Boba. They are. Their master came under attack, and they rush in to help him.
Yep. But where are we? Fennec chases after the others. There's 2 of them running away. She receives the instruction from Boba to bring him back alive, because right after Boba just destroys that one, like he explodes him, he's like, "Fennec," and she turns and he's like, "Alive." You know, like he's like, these ones should, I want them alive.
Mm-hmm.
But Fennec chases after them, pushing one off of a roof and capturing the other. Meanwhile, Boba is placed back into the Bacta tank to heal further. The two Gamorreans pick him up and get him back to the Bacta tank.
And also, I don't think you mentioned, but when they left that facility right before they were attacked, when those two Twi'leks had come back, they had put money in both Fennec's and Boba's helmets, and when they got attacked,
I mentioned that part.
Did you? They got attacked and dropped their helmets, and people scrambled and started taking all the money.
Yeah, they started taking it. Yeah. I didn't mention that part, but
like this scene definitely shows that, in my opinion, it shows that people are not happy with Boba taking over. They're trying to take advantage. Someone doesn't like that Boba is taking over as the Crimelord.
Yeah. But he gets placed back into the Bacta tank to heal and gets another flashback of being tied around that post. The young Tusken unties him and leads him and the Rodian into the desert. They are chained at the ankle and, kind of resembling the kids in my basement. The dog thing follows along.
Mine are in my attic.
Well, anyway, okay. So the dog thing, Boba, the Rodian, and the Tusken wander for a while, which kind of sounds like the beginning to a joke, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
So Boba Fett, a Rodian, and a Tusken Raider walk for a while. Yeah, it's like just kind of sounds like. Anyway, eventually seeing some smoke in the distance, they approach and kind of view from the other side of a hill and see that there's a home getting raided by. It's a creature we've seen before, and I can't think of where. Were they potentially the pirate type things that we saw when Mayfield and Mando were handling the Rhydonium?
I'm trying to get a good look at them, but we don't.
Yeah, I know. It was a slight glimpse, very slight, but I know that I've seen them before.
I don't think they are, but they look similar to something that we've seen in Clone Wars. As just kind of like a background species.
I see. I did look it up online, and nobody really identified what they were, but just from what I could see, they looked very, very similar to. Maybe I'm not thinking of the right ones, but something we've seen, and I don't think in Clone Wars, but maybe not. I don't know. Either way. These things are beating the heck out of somebody and taking their stuff, and they leave. Boba and company proceed and go along in the desert, eventually being led to an open area and given the instruction to dig. Boba and the Rodians start digging for basically these little gourds. They have water in them. We've seen the Tuskens drinking out of them for a while. But apparently they're buried and they need to get them. So they start digging and trying to find them. The Rodian finds one and the Tusken grabs it, drinks out of it. The Rodian finds more and Boba hasn't found any. He's kind of getting a little frustrated, like, all right. And he keeps searching.
Too, though, is how do these get there? Like, how do these gourd things get down in the sand in the desert? I'm really curious on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was interesting, though. Mm-hmm. But eventually Boba finds one, and as soon as he does, he just breaks it open and starts drinking it. The young Tusken runs at him and swings his stick, but Boba catches it and then just continues to drink it for a little bit. He's like, nope, let me get this. And then he ends up giving it to him, and the thing dumps it out and feeds it to the dog. We cut ahead a little bit, and the Tusken is asleep, and Boba is still digging. He says to the Rodian, we could have escaped, both of us, if you kept your snout closed or something. It's not word for word, but then he threatens it, saying he could just strangle it with the chain and feed its leg to the watchdog. The Rodian turns and shouts at him, and he's like, oh, so you understand that. But the Rodian keeps digging and finds some scales under the sand, which as he kind of slowly uncovers becomes this, like, it's a hand.
Yeah, just giant claw looking thing.
Yeah. And then it erupts up and grabs the Rodian. And then this huge 4-armed creature just sprouts up, grabs the Rodian through a series of flailing, crushes it, and then holds Boba up by the chain. The Tusken comes in, stabs its foot, and it throws Boba off, and it starts fighting them.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what this thing is.
I don't know, but I have the note that this is the most derpy, ugly-looking thing I have seen in Star Wars so far. And that's coming from a place of seeing Jar Jar. This thing is weird. I don't like it. I don't like how it looks. It's like a bodybuilder. It's like you took 2 bodybuilders, right? Cut one of them off at the like head, and then the other at the waist, and then just put the waist on top of the neck of the other one, and then it's like there's 2. It's weird. It's like got 4 arms but 2 legs. It's just a strange looking creature.
Yeah, because it uses like its second set of arms. 'Cause it has like, the head and the shoulders and a set of arms, and a torso, set of arms, more torso. And it uses like those lower set of arms, but as either arms, and then sometimes at one point it goes down and goes down on like all 4s, and uses its legs and those lower set of arms to move. And
yeah,
I mean, honestly, I think it's a cool. I think it's a cool creature. The way that it's made and the way that it moves and whatnot, it's definitely really weird looking. But I think it's a cool kind of creature to add to.
I will try to find some positive in it because I do think it is very ugly. I appreciate the added example of the variety of the creatures and the wildlife in Star Wars.
Yeah.
But eventually Boba climbs on its back as it tries to kill the Tusken, and he strangles it with his chain.
Yeah, and if you notice, when Boba finishes strangling it, the one end of the chain that was attached to the...
it like breaks free, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like broken, and I don't remember seeing where the chain broke or when it broke. But I just assume while it was killing the whatever his name was, the other the alien thing that was attached to Boba via the chain.
The Rodian.
The Rodian, thank you. As this creature was killing the Rodian, that chain broke. But when I first watched this episode on Wednesday, I was like, "What the heck? What happened to the Rodian? Like, what?" Like, I didn't make the connection right away.
But we cut ahead a little bit, and they are coming back to that Tusken village, and they have the creature's head in their hands. Well, the young Tusken does. And the young one runs around, and he's showing all of the older ones and the elders and stuff, and he's like telling the story in his donkey speech. And Boba just kind of walks in and just stands watching. As he's doing that, what I assume to be the chief of this Tusken group walks over to him and doesn't look at him, but he just kind of walks over to where he's watching the young one with the head as well, and he just kind of reaches over and hands Boba one of the gourds with water in it.
Yeah,
and it's just kind of like, here you are.
It's like this chieftain recognizes that Boba just saved, whether it be the chieftain's son or just one of their children of the tribe or what exactly, we're not sure what the role there is, but Boba saved one of their own. And it's like, as a recognition, like, you saved one of ours. Okay, there's something
maybe you're
here.
not so bad.
Yeah.
But Boba takes a drink and the episode ends. So yeah. All right. Now to the point that I've been wanting it to get to all night. What were your thoughts? What are your takeaways of this?
Well, I told you yesterday when we were talking about it, when we talked briefly about it.
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed. I enjoyed the episode, right? Definitely enjoyed it still. Yeah. But I was a little disappointed in this first episode as I initially watched it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, like, comparing it, and you're not supposed to compare things. That sets you up for disappointment.
Oh God,
but
there's my neck.
I was, comparing it to like the first episode of Mandalorian, and like compared to the first episode of Mandalorian, this was like, I would say like a big letdown if you want to compare the two. But I mean, I definitely recognize that this is a setup. This is a like the first stepping stone to get to bigger events and kind of get the backstory of what happened for Boba to reach where he's at now. Yeah, it definitely had a weird kind of vibe to it with the flashbacks and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, I enjoy it for what it is. I still thought it was a good episode, just not... I guess my expectations were a little too high. Off of coming off of The Mandalorian and what that show has done.
And I've been thinking about this today because, last night on my way home from work, I called you and asked if you had watched it yet because I was just about to watch it, but I wondered your thoughts. I didn't want any spoilers or anything. I just wondered your overall impressions because I know you and I have both been looking forward to this for a while. And you said that. You were like, it's kind of a little underwhelming. It's kind of like, it's a lot of setup, so it's kind of a little more slower than what you anticipated. And I started thinking about that today, especially after watching it, because my wife and I watched it last night, and it was over, and she literally goes, she's like, "That it?" And I was looking, I'm like, yeah, I guess so. It was weird. Like, throughout thinking of it today, I've kind of refined my thoughts on it a little bit more. I really enjoyed it. And I really I think that they did a good job. However, it was definitely slow. It was very odd, kind of the approach they took. I got, as far as the intro and just kind of the Western kind of feel to it, reminded me a lot of Mando, especially with the music, right? But it was for sure not the same as the first Mando episode.
Yeah.
And that is a little disappointing, but at the same time, I was thinking that I do think they did it well because thinking about it, with Mando, brand new character, absolutely starting completely fresh. They can start their adventure, go.
Yeah.
Boba is an existing character, so there's a lot of gaps that they need to fill. There's a lot of backstory. They need to connect. There's a lot of questions and stuff. Yeah. So there's got to be a lot of answering questions, filling in the gaps while still setting up the series.
Yeah.
And I do think that they balanced that decently well, but it was for sure an odd episode and a very odd start. Especially
with, them reintroducing Boba in The Mandalorian Season 2, where we get the confirmation, holy crap, Boba Fett's alive, and Mandalorian never answering how he survived, which is not Mandalorian's place to answer that question. That's not the place of that TV show to answer how he survived.
No, not at all.
Because at that point, before Mandalorian, as far as we knew, for people that are just watching the TV shows and the movies, as far as you're aware, Boba Fett dies when he gets eaten by the Sarlacc. Now, for the people that go and read the books and do that type of stuff, like you could read the book where it says that he survived that and it explains how he escapes. But for the majority of Star Wars fans, like the majority of fans don't go and read the books or the comics or go on YouTube and listen to to someone retelling those events and stuff like that. And
or listen to a podcast talking about it. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
We'd like to have you here if somehow you hear this.
But for the majority of fans, they definitely had to do something. They had to give an explanation of how Boba survived and had to give some sort of, this is what he did to survive, other than just saying, oh yeah, he survived somehow. They had to explain it. And especially when they said that, the Book of Boba Fett's going to be taking place around the same time as Mandalorian, they're going to have to do flashbacks to fill in that gap of time between the events of Return of the Jedi and now the beginning of the Book of Boba Fett.
Right.
So,
for sure.
I mean, I definitely recognize that they're going to have to answer those types of questions and give some insight and some background to Boba. So, I mean, it's definitely... I would definitely say expect plenty more flashbacks in future episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I would almost expect it for anybody that's watched the TV show Arrow on Netflix. The first 5 seasons are heavy with flashbacks, giving the origin story for the Green Arrow and whatnot. For anybody that's seen that, I would say expect something very similar with this. So the way that Arrow did it, each season lasted about a year and covered a year of origin story for the character. So I would expect something similar with the Book of Boba Fett. I would say each season they do will cover probably an X amount of time until it catches up with this very first episode timeline-wise.
Yeah, there's for sure a lot more recap to be done.
Yeah.
And I want to say, I guess, just in, I don't know, my thoughts, conclusion, I guess. I was fairly underwhelmed by this episode. I was a little more excited for it than what was delivered, but that's on me. You know, I set maybe the bar a little too high.
Yeah.
Because especially seeing it, I completely understand why they had to do this, and because like I said, there's a lot of gaps to be filled. There's a lot of things that they need to cover, and meanwhile also setting up the series. It's like, you know, there needs to be a balance, and sometimes it. You know, it's a little slower as a compromise to that.
Yeah.
But
I definitely
with
see
that,
this. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, with that, I'm very excited for the show. And I think that it did a decent job at setting it up. It as an episode itself was very, just kind of, I don't know.
Yeah. And I would definitely say I'm definitely expecting it to pick up very fast.
Yeah.
And for events to really pick up quickly, especially from the little bit that we do see in this episode, you know, with those assassins coming and attacking Boba and Fennec.
Right.
It wouldn't surprise me if this picks up very fast with Boba having to assert himself, establish himself as the Dynamo, as the Crimelord, as was that what it was called? Something like that? Dynamo?
Daimyo or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
I don't know.
But I definitely see this picking up very quickly in terms of him asserting himself, establishing himself, setting his reputation, and really kind of, you know, like putting people in their places.
Yeah.
And so I can definitely see the action picking up very quickly and that kind of thing. And I'm also really curious to see if they'll, you know, maybe bring Mando in for an episode or two as kind of like a little crossover between Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, because they are happening concurrently. You know, they're happening
at this point they're
at the same time. Yeah. So you know, obviously they brought Boba back in Mandalorian to kind of give the hint of, hey, we're going to be doing the Book of Boba Fett.
Right.
So it wouldn't surprise me if we see a little bit of crossover action going on.
Yeah.
Similar, I would guess, to anybody that watches again like Arrow and The Flash and Supergirl and like the DC TV shows on Netflix. Every once in a while in those TV shows they do a little crossover, whether it be between just two characters or each season they do one big crossover. They bring everybody together for a really like several episode crossover thing. It wouldn't surprise me if we see something similar between Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian, and potentially even the Ahsoka series whenever that starts, if it takes place during the same time frame. You know, maybe we see a little bit of crossover with her later on as well. I mean, the potential I think is there.
Oh, there's for sure the potential. Who knows? But
yeah.
But yeah, that was the first chapter of the Book of Boba Fett. We will cover part 2, chapter 2, whatever, whenever it comes out.
Next
and
week.
Probably, given that it's on a weekly basis, we will stick to our same upload day as I believe Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday for Book of Boba Fett, Monday for Clone Wars, and Thursday for Lord of the Rings. A couple of closing notes. If you guys have lasted this long, first off, thank you so much for still listening.
Something's probably wrong with you. You should probably see a doctor.
But on your way to the doctor, make sure to go onto whatever your listening platform and leave us a rating, because guess what? We have been pushing for Apple reviews, and that still stays the same. However, Spotify added ratings. You cannot leave a worded review as far as I'm aware, but you can give us 5 stars, so I'd highly encourage you guys to do that. Help us out.
Or if you think we're complete trash, give us like 3 stars, but we're aiming for 5. We're aiming for 5.
How about give us a 5 either way, and then write us a lengthy email explaining why it should have been a 3.
That works for me. Yeah, let's go with that.
But at 25 Apple reviews, we will do a live stream, and we now have a area that we would probably do that live stream in. That we have started in 2022, started a YouTube channel for this podcast. So we're gonna post some different shorts there, some different little excerpts from our episodes that may be answering certain questions or just a stupid funny moment.
Plenty of those.
Plenty of them. But those will be updated there, and I'm going to be updating and putting all of our episodes there too. So what I would say is with that, I can further kind of organize it to where we can set it aside and group it by series. So the Mandalorian will be in one playlist, stuff like that. So that'll be cool. But other than that, keep the downloads coming. Views on our YouTube channel for all that stuff. I would say, well, for the actual like full length episodes, those would count towards our 1,000 downloads. Because I would say a view is equivalent to a download.
Yeah.
But keep those coming, all that stuff. Check out the link in the description to be taken to not only the YouTube channel, but all the other links we have. Besides that, we'll see you on Monday, covering whatever episodes are up next of the Clone Wars.
Season 2, episodes 3 and 4.
3 and 4? Okay. Yeah. See you on Monday.
Peace.
Bye.
Deuces.